Alright, here's a look at my training for the last week. I got back to my usual split this week after a lot of traveling over the last few weeks, which was nice. I am dealing with some few acute aches and pains and injuries and stuff, so you'll see a little bit more supportive equipment, wraps and belts and stuff like that than I usually have. I start off my week with a lower body day, so I start that off with hamstring curls, which I was doing on the Voltra this week, which felt like insanely hard. I was only doing it with 45 pounds. Hamstrings are definitely a weak point of mine, but still, that felt like pathetic weight when I was going through them. Then I moved on to some belt squats on the IM2000. I paired those up, I supersetted that with tib raises. These felt pretty good, actually. I'm dealing with a little bit of a low back tweak. I tweaked at the end of last week. So I was thinking this was not going to feel great, but it actually ended up moving and feeling pretty good. So I was happy with that for sure. After that, I moved on to some dumbbell RDLs. I was doing these with the 120s. I was just doing for sets of 10, which I'm sure I could have pushed harder. But again, just with this low back thing I'm dealing with, I just didn't want to go too hard. These felt pretty good, though. I've been liking this exercise lately. I paired that up with some donkey calf raises. Again, I just had the belt squat already set up and ready to go, so I basically just stripped a plate off and was able to get right into it. Moving on, I did some single leg work with some Smith machine belt squat, rear foot elevated split squats. Again, I'm sure I could have gone a little bit heavier, pushed the reps a little bit farther than I did, but I was just dealing with this low back thing, so I just didn't want to push it. But these felt pretty good, actually. I've been the belt squat attachment on the IM2000 feels really nice to me. And then to finish this day, I did some sissy squats, and it was a superset sissy squats and toes to bar. These sissy squats I haven't done for a while. It took me a couple reps to remember how to do them. I was going a little bit too far, like forward, whereas I like to kind of just go straight down with it. I just feel that helps standardize the range of motion for me a little bit better. So it took me a few reps to remember that. But they felt pretty good. It's been a while, and yeah, I forgot how much they can really burn your quads for sure. Moving on to my first upper body day of the week. I like to start my upper body days with some shoulder isolation work. I've just had some shoulder issues in the past just from doing bench press, heavy presses, anything like that. So I like to just start off with some shoulder isolations, usually in the form of lateral raise and rear delt work, to warm up my shoulders, get some blood in there just before I move on to the heavy presses and pulls. Which this week I did a superset of the seated behind the neck press here, seated behind the neck axle bar press, with the dumbbell chest supported rows here. Usually I would do the presses standing or maybe as a push press. I usually just alternate back and forth between those depending on the week. But this low back thing I just kind of wanted to do seated instead, which felt pretty nice. Definitely had to take the weight down a little bit, but still felt pretty good. Those chest supported rows I'm doing on the Darko Thresher pad, which feels really nice. I really like that movement. Moving on here, I did a superset of these alternating dumbbell incline presses. I did these with some weighted chins. I started doing these alternating incline presses just because my left side is like significantly weaker than my right side. So I'm doing this to try to address that issue. Even on like the first rep there, I think you can kind of tell like when I go down the eccentric portion on my left side, I have a hard time keeping my right arm straight. I think I'm twisting my body to try and compensate for the weakness that is on my left side. So I added these in. The weight is really light, but it's been feeling pretty decent so far. To finish this day, I did some barbell upright curls and some Lou raises. My next day of the week is usually a sprints and jumps day, but again, just with this lower back thing, I just did a stair stepper for 45 minutes just for some low impact cardio instead. The next day then was my second upper body day. Again, I always like to do these, start off with some shoulder stuff, shoulder isolation just to warm my shoulders before getting into the heavy stuff. If I'm doing the cable lateral raises, I'm just going full on exercise nerd and cuffing them too. So that's what you see here. And I paired those up with some dumbbell rear delt flies. And then to my first heavier superset here of press and pull, I did just a 5x5 on bench with 235 and some weighted pull-ups. I have a little bit of left elbow tendonitis, hence the sleeve on my left elbow there. So that didn't feel the best during these, but still the weight moved. I got the reps I wanted, so yeah, that was good. Next superset that I did was dips and cable rows. Same thing here. I could definitely feel my elbow a little bit, but the overall these both moved and felt good. These cable rows, I like to do them where I pick a weight and then I get on the first set I get however many full reps that I can, and then for the remaining sets, basically I just go hit that same rep count, but usually it ends up being the last couple are partials. But that's usually how I like to do those cable rows, just as the way to hit a rep target and standardize the movement. Moving on, this is my second lower body day of the week. This is how I like to warm. I like this warm up a lot for my second lower body day here. It's these three things back to back: those vertical jumps with this T-bell swing and the sandbag squats. All are pretty light, but they just help me get warmed up in 10 minutes or so for some lower body stuff. I am trying to learn how to clean here. It's going okay. The weight is very light. I still feel like I am hitting too low on my thighs. I feel like it should be more into my hip, but I'm hitting kind of low on my thighs. So I think I need to think about, basically my hips meeting the bar, bringing my hips to meet the bar instead of, I think I'm thinking too much about making contact with the bar. I think I need to think more about bringing my hips to hit it. Moving on, I just did some Zercher squats and some seated calf raises. The back was starting to feel better on this day, so I was able to actually do some free squats and some RDLs, which felt nice. I didn't push it too hard. I didn't go too heavy or push the reps too far or anything. But again, after a week of avoiding it, it actually felt really nice to actually use the low back in some manner. I paired the Zercher RDLs here up with some razor curls, which this first set felt really bad. I think I should have warmed up just on a warm-up set with them or something. My second set felt much better. To finish this day, I did some weighted back extensions and lunges. Back extensions, again, I didn't go too heavy, but it felt and moved pretty good. And then my last day of the week is just a dedicated arm day, obviously. I did some preacher curls and some tricep extensions here. I always like to do these tricep extensions as the first exercise for my triceps on my arm day. Just helps the elbows get feeling pretty good before I move on to the heavier extension work, which in this day was this easy bar French press. I haven't done these for a while. I had been doing skull crushers instead for a while, but I decided to swap these in on this day, and this felt really nice, so I think I'll keep them in for a little while. And then I paired those up with just some dumbbell incline curls, and then to finish this day, I did about a half hour, 40 minutes of some mixed modality conditioning work.